This is our fifth and final note of Unit 8 on probability. So specifically, this last lesson, we will be talking about media statistics and probability. Probability and statistics are presented through the media in a variety of different contexts. So statistics is the collection and analysis of data. Okay, statistics are collected from real-life events and studies. Okay, so real-life situations as well as experimental studies. Like probability, statistics are going to help predict results of future events. Okay, so again, examples of some statistics: opinion polls, census data, weather reports, gambling odds, sports reports, etc. Okay, so looking at this first example on favorite music statistics. A local radio station surveyed 200 students from one high school to determine their favorite type of music. The results are shown in the table. So again, I feel like this is a bit outdated and most of you like rap music, but that's okay. So in this specific survey, 45% of students said they like rock, 35% said rap, and 20% said that they like country. So it says express each percent as a decimal and as a fraction in lowest terms. So again, the table is giving us a percent, right? So we need to basically work backwards from what we've been doing, right? So we know that 45%, if we divide that by 100, it will give us a decimal. And to put it in it is technically in a fraction there, but we want to make that fraction into lowest terms so that if we divide by 5, we will get 9/20. So there's our fraction and our decimal. Okay, so that was for rock. So we're going to do the same thing for rap. So rap is 35 out of 100, which again, if we divide by 5, we'll get 7/20, and that's 0.35 as a decimal. Because to get that decimal, all you're doing is 35 divided by 100. And lastly, we had country, which is 20/100. Which again, there you can divide by, oh my gosh, 10, or sorry, divide by 20. And divide by 100 to get that decimal. All right. So if there are 4,000 high school students in the city, how many of them would you expect to like each type of music? Okay, so again, this is a bit different than what we've done before, but in order to figure this out, we know the percent, right? We just have to take that percent and multiply it by the new amount of students. So for rock, and I'll just keep the same colors. Rock, it's 45% of 4,000. Anytime you see the word of, that just means multiply. So 0.45 times 4,000. So we would guess that about 1,800 people out of those 4,000 would like rock, based on our statistics from before. Okay, for rap, it was 35%. So 35% of now 4,000 people 0.35 times 4,000, we would expect about 1,400 people to choose rap. And lastly, for our country music, it was 20% of now that 4,000. Take the decimal, multiply it by the total. We would expect about 800 of those students to say that country music is their favorite. Okay. Is it possible that the poll might not be accurate? What factors have influenced the responses? So there's a couple of things that could have happened for this to not be accurate, right? So yes, there are a couple things it could not be accurate. Number one, it only gave you 3 options. What if somebody likes, I don't know, like pop music or alternative music or, I don't know, reggae music or something like that, right? So there's not all of the categories represented. Okay. They could have, like the place that they did the survey, maybe that school is more rural or more like urban, deep in the city, so that would influence the type of music. So the place that the study actually took place could have influenced that. And this is kind of like throwing it back to our unit on statistics, okay, where we talked about kind of sampling and that sort of thing. And lastly, obviously, this is a radio station, so the radio station is obviously maybe like played their music for these people first, so that could have influenced their answers. Okay, moving on to our last example. Statistics and probability. All students at a high school were surveyed about 2 sports. The results are shown in the graph. Express each as a decimal. Okay, so looking at this graph, we can see sports survey, they only asked if they like basketball or football, both or neither. So in order to express each as a decimal, we first need to figure out the total amount of students. So to figure out the total amount, all we have to do is add up the totals on the graph. So the total amount of students surveyed, so 190 plus 340 plus 565 plus 100. Okay, add those all up on your calculator. That means 1,195 students were surveyed. Okay, so now we have to calculate the stats for each of these. So for basketball, there was 190 out of a total of this 1,195. All we have to do is divide those out to get our decimal, 0.16. Okay, so the next is football, 340 out of that total said they just like football. Divide those out, that's 0.28. Both is 565 out of the total amount, which is 0.47. And I'm just going to say none or neither is 100 out of our total, which in a decimal is 0.08. Okay. What is the probability that a student chosen at random likes basketball but not football? So the probability of a random student being chosen, is that student going to just simply like basketball, not football? So just basketball. So we're finding the probability of liking basketball. Okay, in order to do that, we already kind of did it, but we know that there was 190 students out of the total that like basketball, which is 0.16 as a decimal, which means there's a 16% chance of this happening, right? If a student is chosen at random, there's a 16% chance that that student will like only basketball. What is the probability that a student chosen at random likes either basketball or football, but not both? So there we're looking at these two columns here. So they like basketball or they like football, but they don't like both. So what we need to do is we need to add those two numbers together. So 190 and 340. And this is probability of basketball or, whoops, I shouldn't say and. Basketball or football, not both, over the total amount of students. If we add those together, we get 530. Divide those out, that's 0.44. Multiply that by 100, we will get 44%. So there's a 44% chance that if you pick a random student out of this school that they are either going to say, yep, I like basketball, or yes, I like football. They're not going to tell you they like both. They're not going to tell you they like neither. Okay, last question. What is the probability that a student chosen at random likes basketball or football or both? So this one we're incorporating 3 of the options, right? So basketball, football, or both. So we need to take all 3 of those numbers and add them together. So we know that basketball was 190, football is 340, both was 565, all over that total amount. If we add those all together, we get 1,095 divided by 1,195, which gives us 92%. So 92% of people, or students in this school like either basketball, football, or both. Okay? And again, that's based on these statistics that we found from this school. Okay? Which makes sense if you were to figure out how many students didn't like either of these sports. We could just do 100% minus 92%, which is 8% of students don't like either. Okay, so this is the end of our last lesson of the probability unit.